Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the New Construction Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Anya Chrysanthon, and today I'm joined by Chris Hartley. Chris is a VP of Sales and Marketing for Dunhill Homes, which is in Dallas area. And Chris has been in the industry for a while, and he's been kind of having what I'd like to call a breakthrough year. He's been recognized by some of the major organizations like professional builders. He received 40 Under 40 award, as well as National Home Builder Association recognized him as one to watch with the Gold Award as well. Chris was also very lucky to attend a conference, PCBC conference, which took place in San Francisco. It's one of the premier conferences in home building industry. So we're very lucky to have Chris on today, and he'll be able to share some of the insights that he learned from that particular conference so that we can implement the suggestions that he's bringing to the table, and hopefully we can all sell some more homes. So without any further ado, welcome, Chris.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. I love your podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here today with us. And why don't we start off per usual? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how did you end up in the home building industry?
Sure. Well, you said something funny. You said that I have been having a standout year, and one of the speakers at PCBC was Rhonda Conger, and she recently won a National Home Building Award, and somebody came up to her and said, "Congratulations on your year. You've had a really great year." And she had to laugh because she's like, "I've actually been doing this for 25 years, and it took me quite a long time to get to a standout year," which is very true. And I just had to laugh at that because I've had multiple people tell me, "Hey, 2018 is your year." And I think, it is definitely a year that I've been recognized. And I actually have my second child expected in October of this year.
Oh,
so
congratulations.
It could be a banner and a standout year, right? Well, I started in the industry in 2003, right out of college with Pulte Homes in Kansas City. And most people do not think that Kansas City is a mecca by any means for new home construction knowledge and leadership, which is very, very true. It's not. It's a very, very small market. I mean, in a good year, Kansas City does 6,000 homes. What my sister, who used to sell homes in Dallas, Texas for Pulte as well, said, "You're just a big fish in a small pond." Well, I was very fortunate because being a big fish in a small pond allowed me to do a lot of different things. And I've actually been in this industry since 2003, so 15 years. I've done this in Kansas. I've done this in Missouri. I started a division of Ashton Woods Homes in Denver in 2007. Mm-hmm. I shut it down in 2008 in the downturn, which was fascinating in itself. I was a national sales coach for a while. I was transferred to Arizona in the downturn, so I got to see the market when it was truly at its worst. Moved to Kansas City, started my own company. Quickly realized after I was losing significant amount of money that was not for me, and had the opportunity to come to Dallas, Texas in 2011 to work for a phenomenal home builder here. And about 7 months after being here, got picked up by my current company, which is Dunhill Homes. And I took this place over when we did 24 homes, and we'll do almost 500 homes this year. And We are one of the fastest growing companies in all of Dallas. And it's been one heck of a ride. It really has.
Yeah, so it sounds like so far you've been mostly in the managing positions. Did you do any home sales in your career?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer that you need to be out on the field and in the sales office as much as you can. We've all had good leaders and we've all had bad leaders, and some of the worst leaders I've ever had were those that manage from behind a desk. And I oftentimes get stuck behind the desk that I'm sitting at now. And it's one of those things that it doesn't serve anybody any good. And when I really focus on being out in the field with my team is when we get the most amount of sales. So yeah, I started very young. I started directly out of college. 22 years old is what I was. Got to be a manager at the age of 25 and managing ever since, but I have sold, I would say, the entire time. Now, I haven't been on the actual floor as a salesperson in 6 years, but it is not uncommon for me to still take ups out in the field or answer questions. And of course, when you're in management, you're always talking to buyers.
Absolutely. And so if somebody's listening right now and they think, wow, you started at 22 and by the time you were 25, you were in a managing role, if somebody's aspiration is to kind of climb the corporate ladder in the home building industry, what do you think contributed to your quick rise to the manager role, and what do you recommend somebody do in order to position themselves?
You know, this question makes me laugh, because I got into new home sales because I love the fact that you didn't have to be at work till 10 o'clock in the morning. And, you know, when you're young, you still
Right.
think that, you know, you're right out of college. And this was when Pulte Homes was on this huge college recruiting effort, and they were recruiting only college people right out of school. And so I was like, this is going to be a perfect job. I can still hang out with all of my friends really late. I can sleep till 9. You know, I can still get a decent amount of sleep. I can roll into work at 10 o'clock and make a lot of money, and it would be great. Well, I was more built as a night person. And so I would work really, really late, because my dad had this philosophy, you know, you either pay now or you pay later. You know, you're either going to work really hard now early in your life, or you're going to find yourself working until you die. What do you want to do? And I quickly realized that, you know, I don't want to work the rest of my life, and I will always work hard. So my VP of sales at the time, her name was Jamie McCoubry, and she's still a dear, dear friend to me today. She said, stop working till midnight, because nobody sees you working till midnight. Flip your schedule and come in at 6 o'clock in the morning when the construction team gets there, because then they're going to recognize you as being something different than the rest of the salespeople in the industry. It's the same amount of hours that you're working, but people see that you're working.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, that was a complete game changer. Well, one, it was difficult to wake up that early back
I
then.
bet
You know,
it was.
when you're 22, 23 years old, it was definitely a life shift for me. But it was probably the best advice I'd ever been given, because now it's not uncommon for me to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's just part of who I am. And it started at a young age. And it was one of those things that I was always working that hard. People were just recognizing that I was working that hard.
So there are no shortcuts, that what you're trying to tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of any shortcuts. You know, I have a younger sister. She's 18 months younger, and she's in the industry as well. So we followed and mirrored each other's careers the whole time. And I laughed at my sister. I believe she's way more successful than me. She's followed my career and watched me, and she always says, you know, you got to work smarter, not harder.
Yes.
She's like, you work really hard, you work smart, but you put in way too many hours. And, you know, I think my sister has just been very intelligent. She's perfected the art of how to get away with that. And it hasn't worked for me so far.
That's definitely something I always strive for. That's my whole philosophy. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
But you definitely got to put in some hours for sure, especially when it comes to home building industry, you know, with the customers, and it's never a dull moment.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
That is for sure. Yep, I agree.
So let's talk about the conference. So was that the first year you've attended, or have you attended this in the prior years?
You know, this is the first time I've ever been to the Pacific Coast Builder Conference, and I'd always heard really great things about it. But being in Texas, you don't really think to go to the Pacific Coast to go to a conference. And so when I was fortunate enough to be nominated and to ultimately get the 40 Under 40 award, they hold a 40 Under 40 summit. And so it's at the PCBC conference. And so it was a unique opportunity for me to actually go and see something that I've never seen before. I've participated in the International Builder Show. Mm-hmm. And I was actually a speaker at the International Builder Show last year, and completely love that one. And that one in the PCBC, in my opinion, are very, very different. IBS is very much at least the component that I follow, a sales and marketing conference, where PCBC is more globally thinking, right? They have some unique speakers that are not from the industry that come in and give you a completely different perspective on things that, you know, really had you thinking. And it was a great, great conference.
Mm-hmm. Well, Chris, congratulations on your award. That's huge. What do you think contributed to you getting this award this year? Why do you think they recognized you?
You know, it's somebody asked me the other day, they're like, you know, congratulations on your award. And I said, you know, it's taken me 37 years to get here, and I'm 37 years old. And I would say that's absolutely true. And it kind of follows what you started with. They've had a banner year. I got my first recognition in Dallas in 2016 as Sales Manager of the Year. Mm-hmm. I took the Silver Award in 2017 for National Sales Manager of the Year. Like you mentioned, I won gold for One to Watch for NHB, and winning this one. It's just been really 15 years in the making to get where I was. And I believe what it really stands out for, and I would highly suggest this for everybody that's listening to this podcast, it's all about networking. It's all about who you know. And out of the 40 people that were part of the class with me, I knew 10 of them already. And I considered 5 out of those 10 to be close friends. And so if you want to succeed in this business, and if you want to really go somewhere, you need to be insanely curious about everybody you meet, because people are fascinating people. And you, when I first got onto your podcast, the first thing I did was go to the episode about you, because I was insanely curious about you. And then I gravitated towards you because you have an awesome story. And so everybody we meet has an awesome story. They really do. You just need to uncover that awesome story. And I've been very fortunate that 2015, I joined the Jeff Shore Leadership Roundtable. It's a group of 12 individuals that he puts together every year. And we travel across the United States. We meet 4 times a year. So we meet quarterly, but we talk on the phone on a video conference every single week. And it completely changed my life. I got to meet some leaders that just put it into perspective, because when you do manage or you do sell, there are times when you feel like you're on an island by yourself.
Yes.
And you feel very lonely, and you get depressed, and you get beat up, and you're like, where is my traffic? Why am I not selling a home? Do I suck at what I do? Am I good anymore? Do I need to do something else? But when you get with a group of your peers that feel the same thing you do, it is a powerful, powerful game changer. And having that influence by all of those people over the last 2 years, I would say the first 13 years of my career don't even compare to the last 2 since I joined that. And being around and surrounding yourself with amazing people made me want to be that much better. And I ultimately believe that that is why I was recognized for the awards that I have, is that I found myself in a group of really unique individuals, and I did everything I could to help those individuals, because I'm a believer that you have to help those around you.
Absolutely. And I think they say that you are the combination of the people that you surround yourself with, right? If you want to see what you're all about, just take a look at the 7 closest people that you hang around with. So it's kind of similar to who you gravitate towards professionally. And it sounds like a lot of professional growth came from that for you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Congratulations. That's huge.
Thank you.
Definitely well deserved. And so back to the conference, sounds like you said there's a lot of speakers that were from outside of the industry. Was there a particular speaker that made an impact on you that you thought, wow, this really is a game changer? It's something I can take back to my team to help them move forward and sell more homes?
You know, there was the keynote speaker to kick everything off. He's a famous photographer, and his name's Platon. Yes. And he is, and you know who he is. So he's an Englishman, and he is well known for taking portraits of some of the most powerful people in the world. And so he starts talking, and you're like, what does this have to do with anything that I do? Besides the fact that this man he's got a great accent. 2, he has met some of the most amazing people in the entire world. But what does that have to do? And what you quickly realize is that in order for him to capture the portraits that he gets, because they are known as some of the best portraits in the world. I mean, his photos end up on Time magazine. He wins amazing awards. He's just on a completely different level. But he is a connector of people, right? I think if any of us were put into a position where we got to speak to Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Adele, gosh, the list goes, Putin, the list goes on and on. We wouldn't even know where to begin to connect. And this man somehow connects on a level that gets these people to give him their best version of themselves. And what it really taught me is that it's just finding a connection. And we all know that. We know in order to be successful in life, you need to connect with people. And, if you're going to be good at what you do, you need to be able to find a quick connection. But this man, not only was he a connector, but he was a lover of people, and he was a phenomenal storyteller. And if we want to be good at our jobs, if we want to be good in salespeople, we have to be lover of people, and we have to be great storytellers, because people need to remember who we are. Jeff Shore did this best when he wrote a book, Be Bold and Win the Sale. And it's one of my favorite books. And he actually sends out this weekend update. And the one from this morning actually said, it's not good enough to be fast. everybody says be fast, be fast, be fast with your follow-up, but you have to be good. You have to be memorable. You have to stand out.
Mm-hmm.
And Madonna stands out. I mean, anytime you can just have one name, you're obviously standing out, right? I mean, if you're Madonna, if you're whatever, you clearly have accomplished something that made you great. And that was by far one of the best speakers I heard. Another one was this gentleman named Jeff Turner, and he spoke with the team from Do You Convert? And Jeff is he's a technology expert. And that is what he does. And he's created some things for the home builder industry, but his talk was definitely not about what he's created for home building. His talk was about technology is taking over the world. And you are either going to embrace it or you're going to fall behind. And it reminded me of a quote that I had heard, and I apologize for not knowing who said this quote. It was in one of the many trainings that I went to. It said that technology will not replace the salesperson. If the salesperson,
hopefully, right?
Yeah, technology will replace someone that doesn't. And that is so true. And with my team, one of the things that's made us really successful here in Dallas is Dallas, Texas is a market of 94 home builders, right? Wow. We compete. I have neighborhoods that compete with 13 other builders. So how are my people going to stand out? One, they're going to stand out because we utilize the technology that a lot of the other national home builders don't gravitate to. And two, we're going to be insanely curious about the people that come through our door. And the whole technology was blowing me away, because where we're going to end up in 5 years, what he said, the next 2 years, we're going to far advance the last 5 years. And it's going to be interesting.
So what do you think are going to be some of the technological innovations, specifically in the home industry, that you could see potentially helping us sell more homes? What were some of the topics? Is that all kind of internet driven, right? Because people are doing so much more research online. And so when you're coming into your model, they are on kind of a step 20 almost in a process instead of step 1 as it was previous. So what could we do as salespeople to kind of prepare for that technological advance and keep ourselves sharp?
Well, you look at this. So I started in the industry in 2003. I didn't have my first email address till college. So 1998 was when I started college. My daughter, who's almost 3 years old, will never know the world like you and I know the world. Right? And she's probably going to have a job that we have no idea what that even is today. And so one of the huge topics at PCBC was, what are we going to do with this technology? And the world is being overtaken by robots. Are they going to take our jobs in new home sales? And what's fascinating by this, I got to really thinking about it, because we do a lot of technology here with Dunhill Homes in Dallas, and we utilize a lot of stuff. And my sales team joked that, oh gosh, where Chris is taking us, in 5 years, they won't even need us. And I laughed and I said, I'm only going to need the good ones. Now, I laughed and I was joking about that, but there's actually a lot of truth to that. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at where the industry is going, it's going to be drastically different in 5 years. And we're not going to ever do away with the salesperson, because there's one thing here, and kind of sidestep this. There is a robot out there right now. This robot's name is Pepper. Have you heard of Pepper?
I have not heard of Pepper yet.
Okay. So Pepper is this robot, and it sells retail. And you can buy Pepper or operate Pepper for $60,000 for a 3-year term. But Pepper is shown in the retail industry to increase sales 37%.
Wow.
37%, right? And so there's thousands of Peppers in the world. And so you look at this and you're like, the automotive industry, back in the day when Henry Ford had the assembly line, it was all done by people.
Right.
Today, our cars are not built by people. They're built by one person who oversees a bunch of robots. Mm-hmm. So it's the fear that Pepper is going to come into our sales offices and handle what we do. Mm-hmm. Well, what's going to stop that from happening is that Pepper does not understand emotion. You can have, if somebody comes through the door, and this was said best by Jeff Turner. Somebody comes through our door and they're looking at a home, and it's a wife who was just cheated on by her husband. And this was the example he used. Mm-hmm. Is Pepper going to be able to show empathy and sympathy to this young woman who her husband was cheated on? Now, Pepper can say the right things, but it's not going to be genuine. But you, as a fantastic salesperson, your face will change, your body language will change, and you will have an understanding of what this young lady is going through. Or if a family just lost their little kid, or something happened at school and they need to move because their kid's being bullied.
Mm-hmm.
Pepper's not going to understand that. That's
Yeah.
where we need to be better.
And to your point, especially home sales, it's such an emotional decision, right? If you look at just overall sales, like think about what you bought in the last year and some major purchases. A lot of them are not necessarily emotional decisions, but home buying process, right? When you walk into that home and it's almost like a feeling, right? And when you talk to a lot of the buyers, like what are the must-haves? And a lot of the times they'll tell you it's going to be something that we just feel and we'll know it's the right thing for us. So yeah, absolutely. So being emotional and connecting to your buyers on that emotional level. And I think you also mentioned that storytelling. So can you elaborate a little bit more on the storytelling subject of that? How can we use storytelling as salespeople when we're working with a prospect?
Sure. I mean, somebody comes through the door and we're quick as salespeople to always want to jump in and give an answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's the saying that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And 70% of salespeople do the opposite. You would think they have 2 mouths and 1 ear. But those salespeople that really understand the art of believing in their journey of their buyer and understanding the story and becoming part of the story and wanting to enhance the story are going to be those that far succeed way more than anybody else. So we've all been there. Those of us have been in this profession for a long time. We've heard almost everything, not everything, but almost everything. But we have a really good understanding of where people are in the process. Now, I'm actually building a house right now.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It's a very interesting perspective. I'm actually building the second Dunhill home. So I live in what I represent, right? I believe that's very powerful because I'm getting to see real life examples.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a situation. I have a pregnant wife who's due in October. We're supposed to close on our house in August. My wife is very stressed out and very nervous about this because she obviously wants to get into the home and nest, right? She wants to nest before the baby comes. Well, I have a very similar situation in another community where this couple has 5 kids already.
Wow.
They have another one on the way. And their scenario is very similar to mine in the sense that the house keeps getting delayed for utilities. Well, they're going to be homeless. So by me having that internal story and understanding of this personally, because I've gone through it myself,
Mm-hmm.
I have a completely different response to this couple than what somebody who may never have had that experience or that story follow through. And that's where Pepper the robot is not going to take our job, because Pepper the robot doesn't have an opportunity to have a wife who's due and the home is delayed and the emotions are high and the kid's getting picked on or whatever it may be. Now, what they did say, though, is that Pepper will probably make its way into our sales offices.
Mm-hmm.
What is going to make our way into our sales offices as our assistant, not as what we actually do.
Okay.
Which I'd take a Pepper as an assistant right now too. I got a lot of paperwork that I could push onto Pepper.
Oh yes, absolutely. And you mentioned that Pepper increased sales by 30%, was it?
37%.
37%. So did they say why and how that they were able to do that? Is that the a follow-up, or how, what did they attribute it to?
Sure. So it's based in retail right now, right? So it's just being able to answer actual questions, be able to look things up. It's very similar to jumping on Amazon and looking something up when you're inside of Best Buy, right? So Pepper can help automate the system and be a little bit more helpful. And they found that people would actually go up to Pepper and engage in Pepper a little bit more because they didn't feel that they were being harassed, which, you think about it, salespeople, that is a connotation that we have, that people believe that we harass them. Right? Whereas Pepper, as weirdly as it was considered to be a helpful resource.
Uh-huh.
Well, 5 years ago, we weren't using the iPhone like we are today, right? We weren't buying things with our thumbprint. I don't even know the last time I went to the store to buy something where I just didn't buy it with my thumbprint on my phone through Amazon.
Right.
So we're creating our own monsters in a lot of ways by doing this in expectations, but the human touch is always going to be instrumental in this.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like that the more we salespeople can provide that like non-biased information almost, and give the buyer all the information, all the facts, right? Because we first buy with our emotion, but we justify it with facts, right? So
Mm-hmm.
as long as we're able to provide those facts and not hold back, and usually the salespeople have that kind of a sleazy association where we can manipulate the facts to our advantage. So as long as you're able to provide those facts like pepper, but also provide that emotional support to your buyers, it would be like a super pepper then, right?
Yes. Maybe that's what we should start calling ourselves, the super peppers.
Super
But
peppers.
there was and there's a really well-known gentleman in the industry. His name's Will Duderstadt, and Will works for MI Homes, and he is, if you're on social media at all, Will dominates social media. One, he's got a fantastic beard, and he, he's a very recognizable figure. But Will did this speech. So part of the PCBC, the part that I actually loved the most was the conference for 40 under 40. And here's the beautiful thing about this is you don't actually have to be a winner of 40 under 40, nor do you actually have to be under 40 to attend the 40 under 40 summit. This room was packed, and Denise Dearson with Professional Builder Magazine and her team put on a phenomenal 40 under 40 summit. And we had some great speakers, but one of them was Will. And Will's whole presentation was, you are a brand, right? So Pepper is a brand. Pepper's a robot, right? But you yourself are a brand. You are a brand in sales. You're a brand in a podcast. You've created something completely different. You think of how many tens of thousands of new home salespeople there are, and you are unique that you went out there and did that. Quint Lears, who was a friend of mine who was on your podcast, newhomesales.com, he is a brand, and he's done a great job branding himself, probably more than anybody in the industry. And he's got some great followers, and I encourage you to jump on there and follow him. He's probably well over 1,000 followers by now, but he is a brand, and each one of us needs to represent the brand that we are, and we need to embrace it, but it needs to be a positive brand at the same time. Very much so.
Yeah, and I like the definition of a brand is what people say about you when you're not in the same room with them, right?
That is exactly what he said. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that was a key component of his piece, was that what you just said. Absolutely.
And I think if we can, it's all about really aligning your values to your brand. So as long as you're not faking it, right? If you're being yourself and your values are being truthful with your customers, and I think following up in what you say you're going to do so that people can build trust with you, that is definitely a strong brand for a salesperson. So as long as you're being yourself in that sense, that you're being true to your value, I think you're going to have a really great relationship with customers and have a great results in sales. Will is definitely the one to watch. I've been trying to get Will on my podcast, so we've been going back and forth. He's one busy dude for sure. So
well, we'll get Will on your podcast. But you mentioned something too. There was another gal that spoke. Her name was Elena Money, and Elena is this 5 foot tall Italian powerhouse, and she is. I'm going to honestly put her as one of the most influential people I've met this year. She is phenomenal, and she has a great story. And she created a brand in North Carolina. She's created 2 brands, Garmin Homes, and the other one is Fresh Paint. And her big thing there is, if you want to be different, you need to break out of the mold. I love to study new home salespeople. I have this sickness that anytime I go out of town, I like to look at new homes. And I believe, sadly, that 70% of new home salespeople are not good at their jobs. And I say that because of something you said earlier, where you said, how could you sell something that you don't believe in yourself? Or how do you market? You have to align your core values with your brand.
Right.
And I look, and I'm not going to give names, I look at the 94 home builders in DFW, and there's very few of them that I would actually align myself with, because I don't believe in what they represent, or I don't believe in the culture that's there. Now, some people may say that exact same thing about the company that I'm with, and I have a unique advantage is I've been here almost from the get-go. So the culture on my team, good or bad, is something that I created. But with Elena, break out of the mold to be different. She created this thing called the Attitude Addendum for her company. Well, what she did is she looked at this and she's like, new home sales contracts are, mine here in DFW is 32 pages. When I was in Arizona, it was 167 pages long.
Oh my gosh.
And they're completely one-sided.
Right.
So Elena said, forget this. This is a partnership. I believe that we deal in good humans. And I believe that we sell to good humans. So she created this one-page document called the Good Attitude Addendum. And it basically just says, we want your best attitude and you're going to get our best attitude. And together we are going to create a phenomenal experience and a phenomenal home for you. And it's just, you look at that and you're like, that is so different. Like, what national company is going to get away with an 8-page contract? Right?
Right.
She even mentioned, she was laughing. She's like, our lawyers were like, you are crazy for doing this. But she believes in her brand so much. And, I'm not going to give any more because I want Elena to be on your podcast and I want her to tell her story. But let's just say she is a phenomenal human being, and attending conferences like PCBC, IBS, whatever it may be, get out there and network. It doesn't matter if you just started in the industry. It doesn't matter if you're an assistant. It doesn't matter if you've been in it for 15, 20 years. You need to know people, and you need to understand and always be willing to learn from them, because we're never too good at what we do to become better than what we are.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So you brought up an excellent point again, that you need to be aligned with the values with the company, what you're selling, so you feel good about it, right? So what if you're in a sales job and maybe you started off with a builder and maybe some things didn't go as well, and now suddenly you're starting to doubt the whether it's the quality of construction, whether it's the commitment to customer service. So do you suggest that we salespeople sell ourselves over and over on the product that we sell, so that we're 100% kind of in the zone, committed to it? Or what happens then if I don't believe in that product anymore? Do I need to get out? What would you recommend in this situation? Because that could be a tricky one.
That's a great question. For this reason, I believe this reason only, is that as salespeople, we generally create a backlog, right? And we are commission-based people. So our pay is based on the homes that we close. So the problem when I started Dunhill Homes here 6 years ago is that to recruit a salesperson, I had to recruit somebody that had a backlog of 100,000 plus.
Right.
And oftentimes we find ourselves as salespeople trapped because we are married to our backlog.
Right.
And so you oftentimes will see salespeople that won't jump until they're in a closeout, or won't jump until, their next opportunity is too far away, or they have the least amount of money to lose. And that's a tough thing, because you can find yourself married to your backlog for 6 to 9 months. Well, that's 6 to 9 months in a culture that no longer fits what you believe in. And I put it this way, I made a jump one time for something very similar, for an opportunity that I didn't want to look back on and say, wow, what if I wouldn't have done that in life? And it's actually where I am here today, right? And I was with a phenomenal company here in Dallas, Fort Worth. They're one of the best builders in town, if not the best builder. And when I left a commission of $140,000 with that company.
Wow, that hurt.
But it did hurt. It did hurt. Man, I would love that money now. But it's one of those things that it was a short-term loss for a long-term happiness gain. Because I didn't want to look back on my life and say, what if I would have taken over Dunhill Homes, or drive down the street and see a Dunhill Homes sign and say, gosh, that could have been me. I could have created that. And I believe that, along with many others, because you don't create anything as one person. You create it with an amazing group of people, and I have amazing people all around me. So this is something that I definitely didn't do myself. But I'm glad I don't have to look back and wonder what if, because I went after it, because I was willing to forego the $140,000 commission. So to answer your question on that, I would say, if it's not a fit, you just need to jump, because your happiness far outdoes that commission. And if you're good, you will make that commission up, and you'll make it up 10 times over.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's just the key to be aligned. Because again, if you're compromising on your values, you're compromising your brand, and that would be a very tricky situation as far as selling. That takes me back to like the sleazy car salesman, right? That doesn't necessarily believe in certain car, but just trying to push it to you because he's trying to make a sale.
Well, you're absolutely correct. And I would put it this way, and I tell my sales team all the time, if somebody comes through the door and they're saying, why should I buy a Dunhill home? Be proud of the fact of where you work. And I say this for anybody that's listening to your podcast right now. You choose to be where you are, right? So why are you there? Be proud of where you are. And you need to be able to say with confidence, look, I'm good at what I do. I could do this for any home builder in town, but I chose to do it for this company. And let me tell you why. It's beyond our beautiful homes. It's beyond what you see through the model. It's a culture, it's a belief, it's an understanding that we want to make a difference. We want to be the best that we can, and that's why I'm here. So when you're giving your story, sell why you are there, because you ultimately decided to be there. You picked to be there. It's not like anybody forced you to work where you work. So be proud of that and sing it.
Absolutely. And I think especially a lot of salespeople have an issue, or I'd say, I guess, if you're a good salesperson, hopefully you don't have an issue with selling. But a lot of people have that icky feeling when it comes to selling, right? And I think that stems from maybe you don't feel good about the product, you don't feel good about the company. That gives you that icky feeling, because really at the end of the day, when you're selling something, you are solving problem for people, and you should be proud to say, I'm a salesperson and I'm here to help you, and here's what I stand for, and here are my values.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as long as you can align yourself with that, you would kill it in sales.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I've been reading a lot about, people ask me a lot of questions in reference to, when do I think the next recession is? When do I think the next housing downturn is? And I read a great article yesterday in the paper, and it said that they believe that the next recession is possibly going to be 2020, but they do not believe that it's going to be caused by housing. And out of the last 5 recessions that were had, only one of them did housing actually depreciate. So when they're talking about the next recession, they're talking about it being very short-lived, but they're talking about the fact that housing is actually going to carry America out of the recession, which for what we do is a beautiful, beautiful thing. The recession will knock some people out of the job that shouldn't be in this job to begin with, but the good people are going to survive. And the year that I actually made the most amount of money in this was in the downturn in Arizona, because I had a belief that people that were walking through my door actually wanted to buy a home. And I had a belief in myself, a belief in the company I was with, that I had the best product out there to sell, and it aligned with my values. And I sang that story, and it worked out beautifully. And that's where we're going to be. You have to believe in your product.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, especially in Arizona, that was definitely one tough area in the country that saw so many foreclosures, and home values dropped so significant. So I hear your pain there.
Mm-hmm.
But you're absolutely right with selling yourself on it, selling yourself on a product. And I think as salespeople, mostly it is mental, right? It is mental to get yourself in that mindset. Like sometimes I'll be sitting at my desk and I hear the door open, and I'll say, this is my buyer walking through the door. And guess what? They're my buyer.
Yeah,
they end up buying a house. So if you set yourself up as that mindset that this is the person who's going to buy a house from me, it makes it that much easier to actually close the deal.
Yeah.
Right.
There's two favorite sayings that I have, and I actually recently have become a lover of custom suits. And I don't wear suits very often. I'd rather wear no shoes and jeans, but sometimes I have to wear suits. And so I actually put one of these things inside of my latest suit, because you actually can put that kind of stuff in there, which is really cool in itself. It's be the difference that is the difference. That's the first one. And I've made this, and every one of my salespeople has this inside of their office. It's inside of a frame, and it says, be the difference that is the difference. Because people, when they're coming through their door, you are already, you mentioned you're on step 20. They're already way advanced in the process, right? If they come through your door, you're a finalist. It's not like the late 90s, early 2000s where people drive by and see. Every once in a while we'll get one of those. But what's going to stand out is going to be you. So be the difference that is the difference. My other favorite saying is, be better today than you were yesterday. Now, I use that one all the time in the sales office, because we all have bad days. We have days where we're like, oh my gosh, it would have been better off if I hired an assistant to just sit here and hand out my business card and a brochure, and then I would have just followed up with them when I was their day, right? So it's you utilize those two things: be better today than you were yesterday, and be the difference that is the difference. And the people that are coming through the door, just like you said, you have this feeling that you are going to sell those people a home, because you have confidence in yourself and you have confidence in your product. Which leads me to this other speaker that was there at PCBC. Her name was Rhonda Conger, and Rhonda is going down as one of the most fascinating people I've met all year too. And she's written 3 books. I was able to read one of them on the airplane on the way home. It was like 200 and some pages long, but it was an easy read, and I was so immersed in what she had to say. And it was basically, the title of the book was You Go First.
You Go First?
You Go First by Rhonda Conger, yeah. And it's about leadership. But she has this thing, and I believe that it's as applicable for a salesperson as for a manager, but it's a daily leadership audit. And the first one is, am I worth following? Okay, well, yes, that's great for a leader, but it's also great for a salesperson in the sales office. Are you worth buying from? Just flip it. Are you worth buying from? Should people believe in you? The next one is, how is my attitude? We all have been around those. Oh, so important. We've all been around those people that have had a negative attitude. And sometimes I find myself in a negative attitude. And that's just when I shut my door and I say, I just need to calm down, because my attitude spreads throughout the whole organization.
Yes.
And I don't want to be that person that if I'm having a bad day, the rest of the company is having a bad day. And sometimes that happens. And I need to step back and say, wow, I need to, be the difference that is the difference. And I need to be better today than I was yesterday, because yesterday was awful. And the last one there is, how is my energy level? I drink way too many Red Bulls and way too much coffee. And it's probably because I get up at 5 a.m. every single day, and I don't go to bed till about 1. But if your energy level is down as a leader, and if your energy level is down as a salesperson, nobody wants to be around you.
No. So where do you get your energy? I know you're avid marathon runner, like, getting up at 5 a.m. Where do you find the discipline to do it?
So my little girl was born in August of 2015, and I found myself about 50 pounds heavier than what I am today. And I told my wife, and I was not a runner before this, I told my wife, I'm going to run a half marathon a month in 2016. And my wife was a half marathon runner, and she had done many of them. And she was like, that takes training. And I was like, no, I got this. And, I think I'm just one of those people that's just very hard-headed and hard-natured anyway. And so January of 2016, I ran my first half marathon, and I ran it in almost 4 hours, and I threw up twice and I cried at the end, and it was awful. But since January of 2016, with combined marathons and half marathons, I've done 30 of them.
Wow.
Which averages a little over one a month. But it is one of those things that we all need to find some sort of a release in our life. And it took me a good 9 months before I actually ended up liking to run. And now it's just part of my life. If I don't run a minimum of 4 times a week, I feel different. And my team can actually tell when I run in the morning, because I have more energy. So as weird as that is, because I go to bed at midnight, 1 o'clock, wake up at 5:30, I'm running out the door running, and I want to do 5 to 6 miles minimum per time. When you're done, you feel so good, and your energy level is up, and you feel better about yourself. And then when you're eating a really bad lunch, you don't feel so bad about yourself.
Yes. It's the endorphins. You're hooked on it now, right?
You're hooked on it. You're hooked on the results. And I think the older you get, I think you like to get, at least for me, you like to get some medals. So when you cross the line, they give you this medal, and it's kind of like a participation trophy as a kid, right?
Is that what you have behind you there?
Yeah, that's all of them there. And my little girl, when I get home, she loves to wear them and she loves to play with them. And, it's just a good reminder of needing to be there for my family in the future. Now it's one of those things that when I feel better, I still, I still always be better. I would love to lose another 20 pounds, but I feel better today than I did 2 years ago. Right. And I would love to be around for my little girl to be a salesperson. I would love for her to do what her dad does. So I want to be around a long time for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I used to run cross country back in my high school days. So I definitely can relate on the whole, and I feel like when you're running, you're in some kind of a zone. And I don't know about you, like I don't listen to music when I run. It just like my best ideas just come to me when I'm running. And it's like, It's almost like you get into some kind of a trance. Yeah. It's almost like a meditation, right? Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
I'm amazed that you can run without music or something, because for me, I find my time that I run is faster when I have upbeat music. I used to listen to my podcast while I was running, and I quickly realized that my running time was really, really slow. Well, it's because the podcasts were great, but it wasn't, they weren't upbeat.
Right, absolutely.
And it's actually when I ran the Chicago Marathon this past year, which was one of the most amazing experiences I ever had in my life. 1.2 million spectators are there to cheer you on. And it's amazing what a complete stranger can do to your level to keep you going. But, I had to laugh because I have such a random running mix. And it's I was thinking when I was running, I was like, it's a good thing that other people can't hear my mix because it's just so weird. But it's uniquely me, I guess.
Yeah, I always afraid that I'm gonna get like hit by a car or something, that if you're running in a neighborhood, I'm always like, oh, I don't know, I need all my senses to be on so I don't get run over.
Knock on wood, that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, but you're so on with how one person, even a stranger, can change your whole day, your attitude. So I think what I want to take away from today's conversation is that you can be that person to change somebody's day. And when you're interacting with your customers, think about it. You can be the experience that completely changes their day. And maybe they just came from another builder. Chances are they probably have, right? They're shopping around. And think about how you can keep it up to stand out from the rest of the competition, the rest of the salespeople, how you can make them feel so that hopefully at the end of the day, they're not only buying from you, but also thinking, wow, this person really impacted me today. And if you make them smile, make them feel comfortable. So I think that's the key that they can take away from today's conversation. Be the change and bring that positive attitude day in and day out. Now, what's your trick to adjust your attitude other than running? Is there something that you like to do to when you catch yourself going down the negative Nancy town?
Yeah, if that happens, I generally find myself needing to move my location. If I'm finding myself in a negative environment, a negative feeling, I need to leave physically wherever I'm at to start over. And that's generally where I'll put on, I love 80s music. And so that's generally where I'll put on.
Yeah, what's your favorite?
Oh my God, Journey is definitely my number one.
Oh my God, I love me some Journey too.
Yes, I mean, that and anything Michael Jackson, and I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I grew up in the era where we still had records, right? And I have Thriller on record, and I have Madonna. I mean, you name it, I have all of the old school ones. But I've quickly realized that your attitude can be a cancer to the rest of the team if it's negative. And if it is, I'm very lucky to have two marketing girls that I'm very, very close with. And they'll call me out. And you need people that will call you and be like, they'll say, your attitude sucks today. You need to get your mind right. And when I hear that, it's a tough reality to think, wow, as the leader of this organization, I'm being called out for a crap attitude. And that's not who I want to be. I don't want to be remembered as that person. I'm better than that. And you brought up a point when you talk about somebody coming through your door. You need to be the difference and be the change. So I said earlier that 70% of salespeople are horrible at their job. We have a joking saying here on my sales team, suck less for success, right? And it's true. And it's funny to say suck less for success. But if you think about it, if 70% of new home salespeople are bad at their job and they're not engaging the way that they should, if you're just slightly better, then you are already one step ahead. But just think if you're way better, right? And so the one thing and a tip that I could give your listeners here is hire a mystery shop company to videotape your competition. And we do this every community we are in, and we do it twice a year. So we actually invest a significant amount of money in the tens of thousands, which some people may think is crazy, in the tens of thousands of dollars to shop for competition. But if I'm getting slaughtered month after month, I'm saying, what in the heck is going to happen? What's going on? Because more than likely that salesperson, when I go do the CMA, is probably not giving me the full truth, right? They're going to give me some generic incentive they're giving, or, oh, I just have to be lucky or whatever. Something's going on there. So get a mystery shop hired and watch that with your manager and watch it with the salesperson competing against and learn what they're saying about you. Because that's going to give you such an advantage. And wow, I mean, we've watched a couple of them last week here, 2 weeks ago at my company, and what an understanding that we had to make us better, and our sales have drastically picked up.
That's amazing. It's definitely great to be able to step back and like do that kind of a self-reflection to get better at it, because if you're not looking at it, nobody else will. And it's gutsy, especially when it comes to like, okay, so this is what they're doing, what am I doing? And it sometimes can be tough reality, right? Because sometimes you don't realize certain things you do. And I'm sure watching the other salesperson, you're like, oh, wow, I do that same thing. And,
Well, and oftentimes it's a confidence boost to my team because they're like, wow, they're horrible. I'm so much better than them, right? And it's like, dang right, you're better than them. So let's go kick the crap out of them, right? You want to destroy the competition. That is ultimately our goal. And, if you thought the competition was better, then you should just go work there, right? But you work here. And
Yes.
let's destroy them together. So and I believe that you should mystery shop your team also, and not to fire them, right? There's different mentalities behind different managers. And I believe that we hire great people, right? I like to think that everybody on my team is really good at what they do. So when I mystery shop them, it's not to punish them. It's to show them where they are. And hopefully the progression of the mystery shops is better each year than what it was before. And if it's not, then yes, we have a problem. I mean, if you're failing multiple mystery shops, then we need to have a real sit down and a fierce conversation.
Yes.
The design there is to have you understand that, what, I did this, or I'm saying this too frequently, or whatever it may be. We need to get past that.
Yeah, watching yourself on camera is probably one of the most difficult things you'll ever do, because it's like, oh my gosh, really? This is what I look like? This is what I sound like? So I think, to me, when I'm having off days, sometimes I actually imagine that this person that's coming in through the door is either my sales manager, and I'm doing my, demo day to pass my rights to be a sales manager. Or sometimes I'd imagine that they're a mystery shopper and I'm going to be on film. And, it just automatically kind of pushes you, when you're not feeling like it, to step up and perform for that particular person. So that's one little trick that I like to do.
Yeah. And here's, as we're talking about mystery shopping, I would tell your listeners this: if you're on the sales floor and you fail a mystery shop, let's say your company actually does mystery shops to grade you, to rank you amongst your other team. If you fail a mystery shop and your excuse is, well, I knew they were a shopper. Okay. I hate hearing that, because if you knew they were a shopper,
you'd put on a show.
You put on a show and you crush it.
Yes.
And you show me that you know what you're doing. Because if you bomb it because you quote unquote knew they were a mystery shopper, that's the lamest excuse I've ever heard. It's horrible.
Yes. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your great insights. So it's kind of like we've been to the conference now, even if we didn't get a chance to go. I encourage all of you guys to check it out and maybe visit next year. It's usually in a pretty awesome location. So this year was in San Francisco, right? So
yep.
Are you going to Vegas in 2019 for the IBS?
Absolutely. So myself, along with Kimberly Mackey and Will Duderstadt, are, which Kimberly Mackey was on your podcast, aligned to hopefully speak at IBS. And then I'm hopefully speaking with at IBS with Zillow Group and Lasso CRM. So hopefully I'll be there as a speaker for a couple of sessions.
Great. Well, hopefully I'll see you there. I'm going to see if I can make it myself. So
sounds great. Sounds great.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time. Again, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. And I wish you even a better year next year, right? You still have, what, a couple more years before you get to 40?
I still have a few, yep.
Yeah, I saw Quint made it 40 on 40, and I was like, isn't it 40 under 40?
Yeah, a couple more years. Well, I appreciate you having me, and I've had a blast. And keep doing what you're doing, and I love following you, and I love that you're making a difference.
Thank you so much, Chris. I will talk to you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.